everybody, and welcome back to another video from McFarlane Studio. So after 4 days, 35 hours worth of painting, this McFarlane Space Marine is finally finished. I thought I'd share with you 5 hints and tips that I learned along the way to make your time painting him a little easier. A quick shout out to my new Patreon, Callus. Welcome to the Frog family.
Primary objective identified.
Right, so my first top tip is with these mold lines. I know we all hate mold lines, trust me, I've cleaned off my fair share from models. But with these McFarlane Marines, because they're so big, especially on the bolter, the backpack that you've just seen, and I'll show you on the hands as well, it's going to be so visible that it's worth taking your extra time just to clean those off. There is nothing worse than after spending all that time having those mold lines show up. So just take your time to clean these mold lines off. Trust me, take a look at this. So this is my completed Marine. I'd missed off just on this right hand here the mold line, and you can see that's clearly visible even though I've fully painted it. You can see on this bolter though, it was just as bad as the one that I showed you previously. I've cleaned up those mold lines and they're hardly visible. So it really pays just to take that little bit extra time and clear those mold lines off. So I went out and actually bought a brand new scalpel blade from Games Workshop for this. But you really just want to take your time. All you're looking at doing is just removing those shallow mold lines. You can see that I'm using the blade really flat here and going into the corners so as to not disrupt any of the extra bits around the side of the flash that you're removing. So you just want to take your time, go steady with this. It is going to take about an hour or so to clear all of the mold lines off. But once you're done, you're going to have a super smooth surface to then paint and work from. So whilst we're on the subject of prepping models, the other thing I wanted to cover is blue tacking the joints. So anywhere that's got a mobile joint, whether it be a ball joint, the elbows, the knees, whatever it may be, you want to blue tack those up before spray painting. This is going to avoid paint getting in the cracks, clogging up those joints. So the other thing I did for these to make it easier for me to paint them and also to touch the actual models themselves less was to create these bases. So these bases are just done from plastic hard pipe, a bit of super glue and a bit of ingenuity. What I actually did was to super glue the bases and the pipes together. I used super glue and then an old modeler's trick, which is to use baking powder. And the baking powder sets the super glue instantaneously. So it's really good for like filling gaps, but for this it was really good for securing those pipes to the bases to make sure they weren't going anywhere. I'd just like to remind you, if you are enjoying this so far, if you are finding it useful, a sub and a like would be most appreciated.
Objective 2 in sight.
Right, so for tip number 2, I know it seems obvious, but especially in the early stages, you really want to be wearing gloves with these guys. The gloves themselves, it's a longer drying time, especially with this type of plastic. So it doesn't matter whether you're doing this outside, inside, rattle cans like this, or airbrushes, or even your painting. For the first 24 hours or so, the paint on this is going to take a lot longer to set. So if you are painting, make sure you use gloves when handling these guys and handle them as little as possible. This is going to stop you getting fingerprints on those beautiful models.
Objective 3 secured, Commander.
So my third hot tip comes not from myself, but just from a few of you guys who commented on my last video. In that video, you would have seen me trying and failing to pull apart this guy without using either hot water or a hairdryer. So as you can see in the background here, if you are going to be disassembling this guy, make sure that you use hot water. They come apart so much easier. You can see here, whereas before this almost broke the model, now it comes off very quickly. I was able to disassemble this guy in under 2 minutes flat. A pair of pliers might be needed. Hot water and just a little bit of force is all you need really to get this guy disassembled. Whilst you are at this stage, it's always then a good idea just to give the model a quick scrub as well. This is going to get rid of any of the oils or the residue that's done from the forming process when the model's in the factory, and it's just going to give you a really nice, clean, crisp surface to then spray paint from. In terms of priming the model, I just tend to use normal car spray, Halfords in the UK, but You guys can use Games Workshop, Vallejo, Army Painter, whichever spray paint that you would normally use, and that's then going to adhere nicely to the model. So when it comes to reassembling the model, you're going to want to use a hairdryer. You can see me using it here. What this is doing is it's warming that plastic up so that the ball and socket joint just pops nicely back into the limb that you're reattaching to the model. It goes a lot quicker doing it this way. You don't want to put it into hot water because you then run the risk of the paint coming off that you've already put on. So just a hairdryer is all that's needed.
Fourth target identified.
So tip number 4 is quite a controversial one. I personally am not going to be using any form of varnish over the top of this, whether it be matte, satin or gloss. The reason for this is the majority of the wear and tear on this model, from what I've noticed, comes from around the shoulder pad region where the chest eagle is, and also on those greaves. In addition to this, you're looking at where the joints are. This means that if you put any form of spray varnish over the top of it, you're going to clog up those joints. That essentially what this action figure is all about. And if you go to the trouble of brushing the varnish all over this, then you're going to be left with lumps and bumps all over that smooth surface that you've worked so hard to try and achieve a flat and smooth finish. This model for me is a display piece. If you are wanting to play with it, then by all means go ahead and varnish it, but just know that that durability comes at a trade-off for the finish of the overall model.
We've located the 5th objective.
My 5th tip, honestly, is to take your time with this thing. I know, trust me, that the first thing you're going to want to do is to rush through and to get this guy painted as quick as possible. But these Marines are a prime opportunity for you guys to try out brand new techniques, to perfect your lens technique that you've been having so much issue with these smaller models. The more time you take with this guy, the better you're going to be at the other models that you're painting. So with that in mind, I'm going to be doing free video tutorials for you guys on how I did the rust effect with this chap, and also as well how I went about doing the stencils for the shoulder pad detailing, the insignia, the troop insignia, and the White Scars badge as well. So I'm going to be covering both of those in videos. I've already got it filmed, so I just need to do the editing for you guys. But with that in mind, you'll then be able to apply those skills to your models as well. So there we have it then, guys. 5 top tips on painting your McFarlane Marines. Guys, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications for those 2 videos on the stencil work on the shoulder pads and how to paint rust. I'd also like to mention that if you have been finding the videos and streams useful at all, then the channel does have a Patreon page, link to which is just down below. If you've learnt or enjoyed anything, then all support on that is greatly appreciated, as it allows me to continue to support you guys. Channel Patreons receive various benefits, such as requesting tutorial content. I do hourly one-to-one hobby sessions as well every month, and the more subscribers that we have, the more giveaways that I can do. So if any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support me to keep on making these tutorials, then feel free to have a look at the link down below. In any case, a massive thank you to my latest Patreon, Callus, and to all of my other Patreons as well. Thank you so much for supporting me. Thanks to you guys as well for watching. Take care. I'll see you in the next video, and may your brushes always be pointed.